86,000 American dollars for one Bitcoin. What a time to be alive. The crypto market going absolutely parabolic right now. We're going to be discussing that quite a bit and a little bit more today on Money Never Sleeps. Thanks for joining us, everybody. As we get going, you know the drill. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if this is your first time and you haven't seen us before. That is appreciated. Remember that nothing that Kevin or I say is financial advice, so please do your own research. Kev, I know you're a bit under the weather. You and I have taken turns getting sick, but you're fighting through it. So I know you have a lot you want to say about the markets. All I'm going to say is after making the buy that I did in the summer of 2022, I've been patiently waiting for this to happen. I don't know how long it's going to last, but I'm just going to enjoy the ride while it does.
Yeah, this is an amazing run up. I'm not going to take that away from anyone. If you got money in this thing and you rode this all the way up, amazing. There's things that I don't like that I found out this morning. Now I'm looking at some of these charts, kind of things I was watching, but things have kind of accelerated faster than I think even I anticipated. That give me some hesitation as to how long this will last. I've been saying that for the longest, right? But we got to look at some of these charts, see in the big picture if what we think could happen might be happening right now, or for only, weeks, a week, months, who knows? We really don't know exactly what's happening. I think this has been some of the most tricky trading, and I hate that sounds so stupid, alliteration, but it's probably the trickiest moment in financial markets leading up to that election. Now we kind of have to wonder, do things start coming to fruition in a way where it's like, see, that makes a lot of sense. Like that could start with hot inflation data on Wednesday. We don't necessarily know, right? So a lot of things are going to be coming to the surface, I think. And we're kind of in this one little period where we got 5 days until OPEX, where a lot of people are probably going to try and capitalize on the money made within the markets after the election. So I'm kind of hesitant across the board. There's things within crypto, things within the banking sector, also things that are going on regardless with currencies and collateral shortages that are telling me that this might be a major euphoric moment for a lot of people in the markets, but necessarily isn't the best for a lot of institutions that have been pulling out. Like, for example, last week, one of the largest outflows of capital from the Mag 7 and all of the tech sectors. Meanwhile, still relatively high in the markets. So there's a lot that we got to go over, but I'm very excited, and I think this is going to be a really fun time for people who might not even be like shorting the market, but to learn about all these things that are happening.
It is not a fun time if you've been shorting the market. But
I know. Trust me.
We had that move down. We went on that run with Bitcoin where it had like 6 straight losing days. But it kicked the shit out of that in one daily candle. So, we're at this level of like 86.5K that we've never seen before. And I've made it perfectly clear on this show that like I don't trade, I don't do stuff with leverage. I merely just sit in spot. I'm boring like that, but it's treated me well. And when I have like no bullshit, I had like a family friend who's a financial advisor reach out to me today about Bitcoin. Like people are like, Kevin, I know that you're like the Tether, like printing money. I get it. But the amount of money that they're printing is a pittance compared to how much money has been sitting on the sidelines in money market funds, in bonds that are maturing because the rates are going down there. And that money is going to flow somewhere. And right now, the trade is crypto. The move has been crypto. If you saw this coming, like we talked about on the show, that there was all this sideline money that would be going somewhere. When you have a president-elect who is pro-crypto, who is going to have the most crypto-friendly House and Senate in the history of this country, who is, talked about, and beyond just Trump. Like I'm not a Trump fan. I think he's full of shit in a lot of things. But when you have other senators who have tied their reputations to crypto saying that we're going to, be like, embrace it more, it's hard. Like do I think we're going to go parabolic forever? Absolutely not. There'll be pullbacks along the way. Maybe we go back into the 60s or the 50s. but I don't think we're going to the levels that you think we are. So we're going to agree to disagree on that one. I'm trying to maintain my euphoria here and be as level-headed as possible. Never get in this game we play, never get too high, never get too low. The writing is on the wall, though, that a lot of money flew into these ETFs last week. We're starting to see price movement along with that. And I think more money is going to come into them. And if like the play right now to me, and we've talked about this on the show as well, was ETH. Like we saw the ETH ETF took a big fat shit when it dropped. No one gave a baker's fuck about the ETH ETF. I think that is going to change. I think we're going to see money flow there. It's performed well over the last few weeks, like back to 3,300 today. It's still a fair bit off its all-time high. I think we're going to see it get back to that level and beyond. So not anytime soon necessarily, but I just think that that's my approach to the market right now. That's how I'm feeling about it. I'm trying to stay Ace. Good to see you. It's been a hot minute.
Good to see Ace.
I'm not trying to get, too out over my skis here. And I still I haven't sold anything, but I'm not currently DCAing. I'm just riding the wave up. And that's my game plan for now.
I'll say this. There's nothing wrong with, stop loss. All right, that's as much I'll say. Everyone's an adult. They can do their own decisions. I really don't care at this point. Again, I've been very bearish. I know that for a long period of time. I'm just following the debt markets. I'm not necessarily following the euphoria or anything like that. I do want to show some of the Bitcoin charts, though. A few things that we should probably start with, just because Bitcoin's probably on top of everyone's mind right now, right? And apologize for my hoarse voice. I wish I didn't have it. It burns every time I speak. So I'll just try and get this through as few words as possible. This is right now Bitcoin USD on Binance. This is just using US dollar. There's things that I am very interested in seeing. I'm going to actually go to get off the dark theme, and we're going to look at this. And I kind of had this perfect. Let me see if I can get it back to where it was. No. Had it perfect, and then today happened, and we just got a major push to the upside. So basically what I was doing was I was looking at Wyckoff distribution schematics, right? This kind of tells you how something trades at the top of a market. I'm not saying this is the top of a market, but we are seeing things that are very similar to that. You have this major channel that pushes to the upside and probably should have broken down. However, it didn't. Ends up going into a bit of a distribution pattern where you just range within these ranges. And we've had our up thrust, we've had our signs of weaknesses. Now we're at the UTAD, which is the up thrust after distribution. And I think that's where we are. This is the blow off top. This is one thing. Again, this isn't 100%, doesn't have to happen. I'm just thinking that, hey, there's a lot of institutions that are out there. Sure, there's the ETFs that are out there that are buying up this, but there's a lot of other things that we're seeing right now that are pointing towards the fact that this might not necessarily be what everyone is expecting it to be, pushing to 100K. Could it push to 100K? Absolutely. I'm not denying that one bit. I think that the thing is, though, we're running out of time to see how long this could stay, elevated to the point. That's my major concern, right? So we've got this major upthrust after distribution that we're in, because the rest of this chart actually is like almost perfect to the T, how this is playing out. The upthrust is telling us that we're in this blow-off mania phase, right? That means that everything else that's happened within here has been distribution. The people that want to be holding Bitcoin are, and the people that don't want to be holding it are not. But this is the really interesting thing here. This is the one, this major push to the upside. Like I said, it can go up a lot higher. I'm going to get out of this, and I want to pull up a couple of charts that are really important. First thing I want to look at is USDT market cap, first off, right? This thing is absolutely just, I probably should pull it up on the weekly so we can see it better. But this is USDT market cap since October 23. So this is right around the time that CZ ends up getting in trouble right around Thanksgiving, right? It was October to the November area where we're starting to get a lot of information about, the U.S., the DOJ going after Binance for some reason. That reason obviously was regarding manipulation and just like breaking laws when it comes to, having users' information offshore in a lot of what do you call markets. Sorry, I'm not fucking sore throat, but I can see from that we've pushed up significantly in USDT, right? We pushed up 48%. It's about 40 billion or so. We've rallied to this point. Now we look at all of crypto's total market cap, right? We could say that has nothing to do with what we're seeing in Bitcoin. Sure, that's absolutely certain. But you can also spoof a market to push the price up and keep it up if you just put in enough USDT at a certain marks where every time it gets to a point where it's going to get sold off, it just bids more. That's the interesting thing, though. But I pull this up because I want to look at the Bollinger Bands on this. And then what we're seeing is that we're at the top of the Bollinger Bands. And why is this important on the weekly? Well, usually when you get to the Bollinger Bands and you start hitting the top parts or the bottom parts, you do see some type of move in either direction. That could be up. It could be up. I think that when we look at this on the daily, though, and this is just market cap, you can see you got this explosion to the upside, but now you're overextended. Why is this important? Well, let's look at Bitcoin. On the daily, Bitcoin on the Bollinger Bands is completely overextended. Maybe I could change the color on these a different day, but for right now, the green line is right around here, and we're well above it. So we're about $4,000 or so higher than the Bollinger Bands. That's not necessarily the greatest sign. Usually that's a major snapback that we are going to see. Last time I would say that we've seen this was probably here in November of 2021. Right, we got above the Bollinger Bands. It was getting compressed, broke out above it, and then next thing you know, we had all of 2022 that brought us into the lows. Does it have to go as low as that? No. There's some. I might even be a little bit more bullish in terms of how low it could go, as just given what's happened in the past few months. But the last one I do want to look at that's telling me that there is some problems here is the USDT chart. This is dominance. We pull this up, get rid of the Bollinger Bands. This is his historical chart, one that I've been watching for a good period of time, and it kind of is perfect when it comes to picking the tops and bottoms of the markets. Right here, December of 2020, this is necessarily the height of the market, and then we got right here the summer crash we got in 2021, and then we come back for the height here at the bottom trend line, and that's November 2021. Now we got February. Now we got what is this, June 2022? So that's 3 Arrows Capital and all that.
By the way, Bitcoin just hit 87,000. So just keeping that in mind.
Yeah, we're getting there. November 2022 FTX, and then it bottomed out here in March 2024, the ETF. Now we did a double bottom, and now we're back here at this trend line. Is this the top of the market? I don't know. Historically, this does show that we have been touching the tops of the markets when we're against this trend line, right? It didn't go as high as probably I wanted it to, but that also could be in line with a lot of what we're seeing over on the Tether front, which I will share my screen right now. Let's look at what's happening on Whale Alert. Right here, $60 million USDT transferred from Tether treasury to Binance, 2 billion USDT minted to Tether. A lot of Bitcoin moving around, but then you look at this, and these are all like 2 hours ago, 35 minutes ago, some of them up higher, but $100 million sent of USDT transferred to Binance from the treasury, 100. I mean, this goes down for the past 24 hours. We've been seeing this. A lot of big money moving across the board, but this goes all the way to the point where we're starting to see Bitcoin's price absolutely shoot up. This is no different than what we saw last year when Tether was printing a fuck ton in 2023 in the summer, leading up to the point when CZ gets cuffed, right? So I'm thinking right now that this is no different than just getting a lot of people sucked into this market. And again, that comes with just things that we're seeing. This is the up thrust after distribution. But let's entertain an idea of why it's happening again.
Bitcoin is doing a heck of an up thrust. Let me tell you something. Just absolutely giving it to the bears at the moment.
Why is it happening again, though? Why is it happening so fast? That, again, these are not necessarily questions that you should be asking if you want to be a technical trader, but it's definitely questions you should be asking if you don't believe what's going on right now. And again, I feel like we've done a pretty good job when it comes to pointing out fraud. We called FTX the Friday before it collapsed. We called CZ for the longest that entire summer.
You get credit for the FTX one, and you saved my bacon right there. So I will always be appreciative for that.
The NVIDIA one is one that still remains to be seen. Again, there's just a lot of things with vendor financing we have problems with, or I have problems with, and this is one that's no different. So I'm really concerned about what's going on here with Tether out of nowhere, because it's so fast. It tells me almost that there is either two problems. One, CZ only got 4 months in prison because maybe there was something that we don't necessarily know that could come to light. Maybe if there is some type of black swan event that causes problems across the board, we see a lot of banks that maybe iFinex, the company that runs Tether, has issues. We could see a major depeg, and that could allow some new stablecoin to come to the forefront. There's a lot of things you kind of have to keep in mind. And again, this is just with Bitcoin's price action right now is absolutely astronomical. I don't want to go too deep into it, but when we keep looking at these things, these are not necessarily the most bullish of setups. The price keeps pushing up. You can't deny that. But again, we're up almost $6,800 today just off of Bitcoin's price action. Doesn't necessarily ring any bells, especially when we're getting to a point where the dollar is staying relatively strong and yields are getting close to inversion once again with rate cuts coming. Is the market juiced? Is the market thinking that, okay, now we're going to get into a period of QE, or something else happening here? And that's why I pulled up that Wyckoff distribution. I pull up these historical patterns. I'm not saying don't buy. I'm also saying don't sell. I'm telling you guys what I'm seeing. I'm telling you 100% that you're all adults, do what you want. But Ace, 100K inbound, I would not be surprised. I will say that. But then I think that we're at the top of the market and we probably won't see those numbers 4 years, 5 years. It's very possible that's the case. My target right now for Bitcoin is 13.5. That's fucking hard to believe. 13.5. Remember, I was the guy.
We can make a bet, and I'll lay you odds on that too.
I'm not going to bet anymore. Again, it's not that I don't want to put my money where my mouth is. I'm just, the timing has always been a problem for me. I will not, I will not deny that. Same thing with CZ. I would have thought that he would have been in prison earlier.
He rolled on some people. Like we all know what it is. Like he's a rat.
Right.
Like it's just the fact of the matter. He had two options. It was either a longer jail sentence or he rolls on people and gets his sentence cut. Like it's pretty, I don't know. I feel like that's pretty clear right there. I'm curious, this one from Ace, which I love having Ace back. 5 different coworkers asking about it. This would usually be like a top signal for me. And maybe it is. Like maybe, the getting emails from the financial advisors asking about Bitcoin, maybe that is the top signal. Maybe it just means that there are people out there who have more money that they want to put into the market and they're going to FOMO in now. Like, and we're, it was November of 2021, the last time that we hit like the market top right around Thanksgiving. Maybe history is repeating right there. And we're hitting another or was it November 20? No, it was 2021.
2021.
November 2021. Maybe that's happening again. Like maybe history is repeating itself on this 3-year trajectory, and we're going to top here in the coming weeks. I don't know. It's just like you have to find a balance between looking at historical trends, but also keeping in mind that we're kind of in uncharted territory in the fact that like crypto has become not just mainstream, but widely accepted mainstream. Like it was mainstream before because people talked about the price going up, and then they used to love victory lapping it when he would crash back down. And I'm sure they'll do it again because it gets the clicks, it gets the eyeballs on it. But with this new level of institutional acceptance, you have to, I think, adapt the way that you view it and be more flexible with your technicals. I don't know. That's just me. That's just one guy's opinion, man. I don't know. We'll see how it goes out. I'm the Kanye meme right now. Like I can help you with like, but I don't know. Okay. So that's where I'm feeling things.
I don't know. I'm a very skeptical person. I don't believe anything is as it is. I've always been like that. But again, sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. There's definitely questions that people are going to have to ask themselves if they want to get into this market. And again, seems like it's going to the moon, right? And you don't want to miss the train. But at the same time, it's like, why is Warren Buffett sitting in so much cash? Why is Jeff Bezos selling $3 billion worth of Amazon last Friday?
We're going to find out that Buffett was bidding Bitcoin at like 62K, and he's no longer sitting on as much cash. And that's why we're seeing such a big move up. I don't know.
Yeah. I still have some other questions too, but OPEX, let's talk about that right now. Yeah, that comes out Friday, right?
Fortunately, Kevin, I think you're asking a lot of very good questions, but no one is going to give you a reasonable answer. So it's kind of a shit situation. But yeah, let's go into OPEX, then we can wrap this thing up so you can go get some rest and we can run it back on Wednesday.
Yep, 6,000 S&P 500, right? Shooting up like crazy. I did share a screen grab on Twitter. You guys can search for it. I'm not going to pull it up right now. But that's my range. 60,000. 60,000. Fuck me. 6,000. Oh my goodness. All these Bitcoin zeros. I'm just messing up everything I'm saying right now. 60% drawback in the S&P 500. That's what my expectations are. That's a target level. And that could happen in a matter of 8 months. It could happen over a course of 24 months. I think we are going to have 2 major drops. I think one drop is going to be something regarding just the banking institutions and financial institutions just being extremely pressed. The other one, I think, comes with a lot of Trump's policies. Now, a lot of people are expecting Trump to be really good for the economy, for the market. I will say this. when corporations have to deal with the new tariffs that are going to be proposed, are they going to push that forward in forward guidance? Are they going to have higher corporate profits? Probably not. It's kind of a deflationary situation. So I think it's going to hurt the markets itself. And I think that could absolutely get us to a point where we do see stimulus injected into the monetary system once again. Maybe this is something that's a little bit further out. But why I bring this up is because I did share a fractal on that screen that talked about, this date right back here. This was January 2020, February 2020. And this came out to be, the COVID flash crash that we got. We saw a major move to the downside, right? Roughly 35, 36% down in the S&P in a matter of 3 weeks or so. I think that we're in a very similar situation where volatility is extremely cheap. People are betting against it. Everyone's kind of rallying into certain markets. And, after the election, everyone's kind of rallying off this idea that Trump's going to be great. We're going to see Bitcoin move to the all-time highs. We're going to see the S&P continue to push. We're getting rate cuts, so QE is going to come back. I think we're in for a rude awakening. We're going to see a very deflationary 4 years under President Trump. That's just my opinion. Looking at this across the board, though, we see that there's really bad problems in the bond market. We're continuing to see, erosion in the bond market. Why is this bad? Well, we uninverted. We were, at 0.2 on the 10 to 2 year yield. Now we're at 0.04. So we're going in the wrong direction, given that Jerome Powell has been cutting rates, right? We got a 50 basis point cut and we got a 25 basis point cut just the other day. Why is this happening? Why are people, usually when we start to see rate cuts, we tend to see, the yield curve stay uninverted. Could this invert? It's possible. For a short period of time, I think it's possible. So you have to wonder what's happening in the bond market. Well, the bond market was eating shit last week. You can see that it just kept on going, pushing up. And the problem is it hit this trend line right here. Am I sharing? Yeah, I am sharing the right screen. So it hit this trend line right up here. Now you have to think, the banks were underwater all the way back here, 0.561. They were buying treasuries right down here in 2020. Stimulus. All right, they're underwater. Big time underwater in 2023, right? Underwater here in 2024, underwater here still. This is just a matter of time before there's problems in the banking system that come to surface. Unrealized losses are a big problem, especially if there's no debt creation. That's how our monetary system works. And we're seeing the problem not just in the US, but we're seeing it in Asia. Asia's injecting tons of stimulus. It's not working. Now we're starting to see that the German economy is starting to falter, and they're asking for snap elections to see if they can fix the issue. That comes, I believe, next year in January or so. So we're seeing a lot of these global markets have a lot of problems. And the reason that we're seeing this, where the bonds are eroding and it's killing the banks, and then you're seeing this as well, going up with stocks, the DXY breaking out of this level of resistance that we had here, is because there's a dollar shortage and there's a collateral shortage out there. Some of these institutions don't necessarily want to pay these high yields, or they want these high yields for what they're pretty much holding as U.S. debt, and they're locking up some of this cash in those percentages. And you see the dollar skyrocketing. We're getting to a point where there's too many equities out there, and equities are inflated, they're overvalued, and the dollar is going to be extremely scarce right in the coming weeks and months, to the point where there's going to be a huge shift. And I think that shift comes fairly soon, as opposed to what other people think, right? I think that would be a major correction. That maybe it's the first correction, right? Just the A wave that gets us to, I don't know, let's say 4,100 in the S&P. Again, that could take 6 months, it could take a year, and then it could take as long as it needs to. But this is something we need to keep in mind. Why is the dollar strong with equities? Why is the bond market continuing to weaken amid rate cuts? There's a lot of problems here, and we're starting to even see some of the rotation of capital out of the big 7 stocks, Apple, Amazon. We're seeing little red days here and there. Where's that going? It's probably going into the small caps for the time being. We're seeing a lot of rotation of capital. I will say that. Very similar to what we're seeing in Bitcoin too right now. A lot of people pulling out. I'll entertain the idea. People are pulling out of gold and some of these other assets, cash on the sidelines, throwing into something that's getting massive returns each and every day. Maybe that's the case here. But again, once the money has nowhere else to go except for into the bond market once again, because everything else starts crashing or collapsing, you're going to see yields drop like crazy. You're going to see the dollar value probably stabilize somewhere around 122. If it gets really bad, it may be the 114s or so, and then it would probably come down once we start to introduce some of that QE, whether that's rates at 0 or we start to see, some type of stimulus, whether fiscal or monetary, that brings the dollar's value down and allows some of these assets to go up once again. But that's an entire cycle essentially that we're looking at. This is kind of not the fun stuff to be watching. It's the stuff that I've been keeping an eye on because I think it's very important to see where things are going, where things are heading. I think with OPEX, we're going to probably see a lot of those positions close. We're going to see a lot of money decide where it wants to go after this. We got data that's coming out. We got Wednesday inflation data. We got after that probably jobs data that's going to be revised. Is good news, or is bad news now? You know what I mean? It's before it was just up only. These are questions we have to ask. I'm not saying you should be doing anything rash, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a day where it's just like some random Monday or some random Friday, you start to see the market trail off. And then next week, you start seeing a lot of sell off. There's nothing necessarily outside of OPEX for this market to be held up anymore. And again, this OPEX isn't as special as anything else. This is more of just like the cherry on top. Fuck you. There's nothing else that this market could really do at this point. The elections are over, and we kind of just say, you know what? Let the market be free, and you start to see where the strength really relies. Is it in the retail? Is it in the hedge funds? Certainly is in the institutions, because we're still seeing the drains happen, and we're going to continue to see that until it's at zero. So that's my case. I know I talked way too long. Important shit to me. I hope it's important to you guys as well, because this is the stuff that I don't think retail ever questions. It's Green Day, let's buy. But yeah, that's it. I'm sick as fuck. Take over.
Yeah. We're going to wrap it up so Kevin can go get some sleep. It was a pretty ho-hum day in the market with Veterans Day. Expect things to change throughout the week. We'll get CPI on Wednesday, PPI on Thursday, some retail sales data on Friday. So a lot of Fed speakers talking as well, Jerome Powell being one of them. I'm sure they'll all be addressing how they expect things to change under the new administration, all of that jazz. So stay tuned. We'll be back on Wednesday at our regular time. That being said, if you haven't yet, like today's stream, subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you enjoyed it, or if you didn't and you just want to do us a favor and subscribe anyways. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Stay safe in the markets, and we'll see you on Wednesday.
And regardless, be excited. This is a fun time to be in the markets. Take care.